Encounter is brought to you by the Broome County Council of Churches.
Welcome to Encounter. I'm your host, Dave Alexander. Today, I'm privileged to have Reverend Mark and Lynne Kimpland. They are very new to our area, a month and a half, I think. He is the new pastor for Endwell United Methodist Church. Welcome.
Thank you.
To Encounter,
Thank
and
you.
welcome to Broome County.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Maybe you could tell us first a little bit, just a little family history about yourselves.
Sure. Well, I do first want to say today's our anniversary.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you. 32 years together. But it's been a great ride so far. Everything is well. We have been in the area just over a month. It started officially July 1st, and we've been here over a month and just absolutely lit. We were excited to be here. We were ready to be here. Our family dynamics, I'll let you say a little bit about the kids and such. I'll let her boast about the kids a little bit.
Yeah. We met in college.
Okay.
And actually, Mark was an answer to prayer for me. And I made a promise that I would do whatever God called me to do.
Okay.
And we met. And got married in 1981. Mm-hmm. We have two beautiful children that are now grown, a daughter, Lacey. She's married to Eric, and they have a son, Grady. And we have a son, Matthew, who's married to Carrie, and they have a son, Brody. Our daughter and her husband happen to be in the area.
Okay.
So we are very blessed to be called here, and we're looking forward to doing ministry in this area. Excited.
It's been exciting because the church, the Endwell United Methodist Church, and this community has embraced us completely. And there hasn't been, I understand it's the honeymoon period and such things, and I get that, but they've been very welcoming and have gone above and beyond the call of duty to make us feel welcomed. And we're in the area, and so far so good, and we love it.
That's good. I read your resume. As a graduate of Cortland myself, phys ed. So
yes.
Phys ed to ministry.
How does one do that? How does one do that? Sports was my life.
Okay.
I graduated from Cicero High School, played sports, went to Keystone College for 2 years, then went to Cortland and graduated with a bachelor's degree in physical education. And what happened was, how one makes that jump is, I taught in the private school for 2 or 3 years. And it just wasn't what I was looking for. It wasn't feeding my spirit and such. And so I took about 2 years off and kind of meandered into a bunch of different areas. I worked in a factory, I bagged groceries, I was a wrestling coach, I did a lot of different things. And I got to a point in my life where I needed to make a decision. Do I answer my call that I feel came to me my junior year in high school, or do I continue to run away from it? And in my life, it was a lot more difficult running from the call than it was just to answer the call. Yeah. So that 2 years of just meandering around life and trying to get my head screwed on straight was the greatest blessing, looking back on it. Yeah. So how does one become a phys ed teacher and a pastor? It's a winding road and such things. But she did not marry a pastor.
No,
she
I married a phys ed teacher.
So your life changed.
Totally.
Yes.
Totally. Those 2 years that he was kind of searching were a huge struggle for us. But it is definitely something that I think we would go through again, because it's where we are today. It was the journey that brought us here.
Because one of the things, we know struggle. I mean, boy,
We've
talk about
been
financial
there.
hardships and
Financially.
such things. We were really, really, really hurting. And it was amazing. One day, I was a wrestling coach working in a factory, and literally the next day, we were on our way to Washington, D.C., where I served as a student pastor and attending seminary full-time.
Wow.
So, I mean, it was instant. Yeah. So, baptism by fire.
And we had two small children. Our daughter was just born. As a matter of
so then you're
fact, she was only
off.
3 weeks old. Our son was 2. So we were just plopped right into ministry. So.
Yeah.
Now, I do know that, and reading and kind of researching the website you came from Fulton, where you were there for 17 years.
Yes.
That really the two of you consider yourselves partners in faith as far as the faith journey. So that's a very amazing thing, because you don't hear that.
No,
in fact, as we were talking beforehand, very seldom do you see a pastor and pastor's wife. So. tied together.
And it's been that way really since day one. When I did the student pastorate, it was at Dickerson United Methodist Church, a very small rural church. As a matter of fact, it was the only church in the district that didn't have an indoor bathroom. So we're talking rural.
One with the moon on the outside.
Yes.
You got it. You got it. So they either went out
The
back.
church had an outhouse.
Yeah, either went to the outhouse or the parsonage, one or the other. But that was 3.5 years of blessing, and she jumped right in. I mean, she was doing Christmas pageant, she was doing the Sunday school. She has poured herself into the ministry, and the same when we went to Seneca Castle for 6.5 years, and in Fulton. So it has been a partnership, and right now where we find ourselves here at Endwell is kind of discerning what that partnership is going to look like over the next 10, 12 years. So we're ready to roll up our sleeves and see where God leads us.
Okay. Now, maybe you could explain to us, we're all part of the Upper New York Annual Conference now, how the whole process is. You were at Fulton, and now you're at Endwell. How that process took place, and who made the initial call to you and said,
Yes.
would you come to Endwell? And
The United Methodist Church has a very interesting procedure. It's called the itinerant system, and it's by appointment.
Okay.
It is year to year. So while I might be looking at being at Endwell for X number of years, that's not how the system works, and never has worked that way. It's always a year-to-year appointment where the cabinet, which is made up of the district superintendents and also the bishop, every year review all the churches, who's willing to move, what church would like their pastor to move, and that whole discernment process goes through. And I found myself, after just entering my 18th year at Fulton, it was time for a change. It was a great experience. We loved the people there. We felt loved. It was a great ride. But after a while, I think that I needed a new challenge, and I think they did too. We did not leave Fulton angry or gnashing our teeth, and neither did they. They didn't ask me to hand in my key and get out of town. We were not run out of town at all. As a matter of fact, we dearly loved them, and that will be the place that we'll always remember that our kids grew up. But it was just time for a change, and this system allows that to happen. But one thing that I always have to tell people who are not familiar with the United Methodist Church is they don't interview pastors. I wasn't interviewed to come here. The cabinet made the decision that based on Endwell's needs and my gifts, it would be a good match. And when I finally meet the committee that night, and it was a night in March, I think it was sometime, when we actually met. That's not an interview. That is, committee, meet your pastor, pastor, meet your committee, and if anybody can show just cause why this should not happen, speak now or forever hold your peace. So that's very unique in the United Methodist tradition. So it allows churches to make a change if it is needed, but also has some flexibility that if you don't need a change, a la Fulton for 18 years, you don't need to.
now, let me just say, they come and say, okay, you're going to go to Endwell, and you don't feel comfortable doing that. Do you have any say in that? Or?
You didn't used to. I think the United Methodist Church has mellowed over the years. But yes, there is. As a matter of fact, speaking off the record here, I was asked to take a look at another church or two that just on the onset just didn't seem like a good fit. And the district superintendent and the bishop were gracious enough to say, okay, maybe you're right, but why don't you look here? So yeah, there is some leeway. Way back when, and I'm talking probably just a generation or two ago, United Methodist pastors would arrive at conference in June and find out whether they were moving July 1st. So things have mellowed with...
I was going to say, it's a big change because you knew in March, so you really can...
Absolutely, yes.
Plan your farewell at your other church. It's not like all of a sudden, bam, it's happening. People have time to adjust.
And you know, we were just talking about this the other day, that I'm just finishing up my first full month today. I got the month of July behind me, and that's always a nerve-wracking month, trying to get to know everyone and such things. But we've been in this transition point since the middle of March. You know, buying a new home, getting it ready, coming back and forth, meeting with the staff, all those kinds of things. So we've only been here in ministry for a month, but it's seemed much longer than that because it has been much longer than that. So.
Okay, I guess with that in mind, 1 month down, I know you've had some challenges, and probably the biggest one is, okay, brand new congregation, brand new names, trying to...
Absolutely.
Is there anything that sticks out that's really a big change for you?
That's a no-brainer. The biggest change is to know where I'm not needed and get out of the way.
Okay.
That has been my biggest challenge. I mean, I'll be in the office and it's already taken care of. I'll come over here, already taken care of, and that's very new to me. The Fulton experience was very hands-on.
Okay.
I had my hand kind of in every bit of what was going on, and I don't see that here, which is a breath of fresh air, but I have to learn to adapt to that.
Right.
And find where am I going to put my talents and my gifts and my graces, and where I'm not going to, where it's not needed.
Well,
as
maybe
much.
you need to tell staff what they shouldn't be doing.
It seems to be.
I can speak from.
Yeah, you got some experience on that. Yeah, and so it's just kind of weeding my way around as to names and where people are and who's related to who and family trees and all of that. Of course, is overwhelming for the first year and such things. But I'm getting much more comfortable every Sunday, kind of putting my own slant into worship. And by the grace of God, the people have been very comfortable with that, or at least they seem to be fairly comfortable with that up to this point.
Well, I will say energy level that you come across with, you can't walk out of the service without feeling that. It's, it's really great to see someone up there that has so much energy. It rubs off on you.
And I appreciate that, and that's something, as we live this out together, that every pastor has gifts and graces, and some and things that aren't areas that they're not as gifted in. And I just take great joy and pride, and I work very hard to make sure that Sunday is worthy to God.
Okay. I'm going to ask Lynn a question now.
Sure.
We were talking a little bit beforehand, but on the Fulton website, you really were very active, involved in the youth activities. Maybe you could explain some of that.
Yes, I believe in order to have an active church or a vital growing ministry at a church, you have to create entry points for children and their families. So I would get very creative and do all sorts of activities throughout the year. I was the children's activity director, and for years I was their youth director, and try once a month alongside of the Christian education program, which we did children's church. We would have an activity, whether it was something for Halloween or something in September to kick things off. We would have Bible Sunday. Our vacation Bible school was huge, huge, because third week in July is always the hottest week. We did VBS here at Endwell third week in July, and so did the Fulton Church, and I knew that. So probably about 5 years ago, we decided to get a water slide, and that drew in over 150 kids. And Fulton is a very small area, but it was a ministry that the church wanted to provide, and every year the kids would look forward to it. And so I would build on that for September and then throughout the year. So we did have a vital, growing children's ministry, and I love it. I mean, it's a passion of mine, and he knows when I get involved in something, I zone. I'm like in a zone.
It's up there.
You don't talk to me. I mean, you know, because I'm a D personality, and I work on it, and I enjoy it. It's something that I really enjoy doing, and that's why I'm kind of in prayer and discernment as to where God is leading me here in Endwell. So,
well, I know if you don't involve the youth, you're not going to have a vital congregation, because the youth are the ones that are going to grow up and carry on in the church and everything. I also know we're in a unique situation in our community where big EJ community for a long time, IBM community, all of a sudden we have no EJ. We have very little IBM, so I mean, it's like things have really changed, and we've got other smaller places that have picked up. I mean, our two hospitals and the university are the biggest employers now, where it used to be EJs and IBM. But the Johnson's families pumped all the money into building these beautiful churches in our area, and now there's not the people there, but they don't involve the youth to help fill the churches too. So
had an interesting conversation with some of the a few folks just yesterday, as a matter of fact, and I asked them, point blank, what do you see as the biggest needs within this church community and the community and Endwell, Endicott, and such things? And that was their response, is that 20 to 40-year-old group. It many times is non-existent. But what we have to realize is that 20 to 40 group, that's where the kids are.
Right.
And this is one, as I understand the ministry, this is where you have to get the cart ahead of the horse.
Right.
You've got to make sure that the kids are there and the youth are there, and mom and dad will follow.
Yeah, right.
You know, so it's you're almost looking at two ways of doing ministry with this age group and that generation, but that generation has the kids.
Yeah.
And we have found that it's the kids that get the parents
Absolutely.
to church.
Right.
Absolutely.
So you have to have something that draws the children and the youth
Okay.
in.
I guess I'll ask one more question to you. For you, all the changes coming from Fulton to Endwell, I mean, you're probably doing all the stuff for the move and all that stuff. Quite hectic, probably.
Probably, yes. We closed, and that's the blessing. This is the first time in our marriage, in our lives, that we've owned a home.
Okay.
We've lived in parsonages, which has been a total blessing for us. We've enjoyed them. We've been very fortunate. We've had beautiful homes, but it still wasn't our home.
Right.
And when we found out that we were coming to Endwell and had the opportunity to purchase our first home, that was the biggest excitement for me. So we closed on our home in March, and from March until we moved, we had been coming down to Endwell working on it. And that was busy.
Yeah.
It really, because we did a lot of home improvements, and we did it ourselves, which we're
Not
very,
our forte.
which we're very proud of. He has a tendency to call me Larry because I'm the one that likes to work with the tools. So it was very interesting working together, but we and busy, but we loved every minute of it because it was our home, and now we have a wonderful home, and we feel very blessed.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a new tool in my pastoral counseling with couples. I'm going to have them work together on the home for 6 weeks and see if they can work things out.
I don't know. That may be a good thing.
It may or may not
I
be.
don't know.
You know, you'll come out one way or the other.
Kind of want to change the tone for a second. We have a very interesting situation occurring in Broome County. Reverend Steve Heiss, who is a local pastor, wrote a letter to the bishop stating that he had been officiated at the marriage of his daughter.
Yes.
And just wondering, now he has been brought up on charges because of this. How, as a pastor, do you go to your congregation? I mean, they're having a prayer vigil tomorrow up in Syracuse.
Yes.
But how do you deal with this to the congregation, your local congregation, to have them understand exactly what is going on and why? I mean, the Methodist Church says open doors, open hearts, open minds. So we're supposed to be welcoming to everybody, but yet the discipline says something totally different. So.
Well, the United Methodist Church can no longer hide behind other denominations now. We've hid behind the Episcopalians and others that have gone down this road before.
Okay.
And Steve is a dear friend of mine, and someone that I respected deeply and greatly. And he certainly is passionate about where he stands, and he's not alone. And it's the time right now, especially in the local church, where dialogue has to take place. It's no longer a time of I'm on this side, you're on this side. Okay. Dialogue has to take place, and it has to take place via the spiritual leader. And that's my responsibility here at Endwell, is to make sure that dialogue is mature, make sure that it encompasses wholeness and grace and love and acceptance and such, and to really quit hiding behind this issue. And I'm just amazed between you and I that this is still an issue with people. I just am totally amazed with all of the famine in the world and all of the disease and the poverty and our abuse and such things, that this still is such a hot button for us. The difficulty is the Book of Discipline, which is the polity and the administration of the United Methodist Church, that says that homosexuality is incompatible to Christian teachings. And that's the phrase in which we struggle with. what do we mean by incompatibility with Christian teachings and such? And I guess where I come out on this is this really isn't an issue about homosexuality. It goes so much deeper than this. And it really comes down to, and I've kind of been beating this drum for years, and I look forward to sharing this with the Endwell community and the church. It really comes down to, I believe, in my humble opinion, what is the Bible to us?
Okay.
How do we understand the Bible? That is really the deeper issue here, because you can take other issues outside of homosexuality, and as people of faith, we have to understand, what is this Bible to us? And here's my fear. My fear is that the Bible has become God.
Okay.
And I think there's grave danger in that. To think that the Bible, because Christians many times will use the Bible and God interchangeably, as if they're one of the same. And the idea that an infinite, creative, omnipotent being can be encompassed in a book within 2 covers. I find that as probably as blasphemous as anything. And so I know what the Bible says about this issue. I understand what the Bible says about this issue and other issues. But really it comes down to, how do we interpret, how do we understand, how do we embrace, how do we live out today the Holy Scriptures? Okay. So that to me is a bigger issue outside of this this issue that Reverend Heiss is going through and such.
Now I know they're saying that in 2016 there's the possibility that changes could be made.
Yes.
And what kind of a process is that?
Every 4 years there's a general conference where the United Methodist Church makes changes, adapts this book of discipline, and this idea of homosexuality and same-sex marriage and all of that has come up every 4 years and such things. So in 2016 there will be petitions, and there will be perhaps some changes in that, but right now it reads that it is incompatible to Christian teaching, and that's kind of where we're stuck right now, and we're kind of on sides one way or the other. And again, I just really believe what can be done in the local church is to really begin to understand, what is this book to us, from which we take all of this information to be on one side or the other. Because we take the same book and we choose different sides. And I find that amazing that we do that, and then to really understand what is Holy Scripture to us. I think that's a dialogue that can happen everywhere.
Now I do know that if you read Facebook, because there's been a lot of things that have been on there about the whole thing for the prayer vigil, and our bishop has actually come out and encouraged people to pray. So he hasn't really come out and said, you know, you're going to be a sinner if you are supporting Steve. He hasn't done that. But yeah, he's going to have to follow the book of discipline and whatever he decides. So,
Bishop Webb, I have great admiration for, and I think that his heart has got to be breaking right now. I really do, and I would not want to be in his situation, even though I am in his situation in a smaller setting, because I'm sure at the Endwell United Methodist Church, there's people on both sides, and you treat each side with love and care and grace, but with an open dialogue. And so his role is to uphold the book of discipline. That's where we are, and how do you do that with grace and with love, and to have the open doors and the open hearts and the open minds and all of those things that we claim in the United Methodist Church. These are, while this is a challenging time for the United Methodist Church, I think this is a glorious time for us to really be in dialogue and really be grace to each other, especially those we don't agree with. It's easy to be grace to those you agree with. It's those that you don't agree with for whatever reason and such. So I think this is a great opportunity for the United Methodist Church, and let's see where God leads us.
I guess before we wrap up, is there anything that you would kind of like to share, maybe your vision of a couple things that you'd like to see happen for Endwell, or maybe I'm really putting you on the spot there.
No. This is great. Do you anything on?
Go ahead.
Okay, all right. Again, only being here a month, but being very aware prior to here as to where I see the church going and the community. First, I want to say that I am absolutely blown away with the understanding of ministry and mission that these people have. in the community around the world with the Haiti Project, with the Monday night dinners. I mean, that is just fantastic, and I'm thrilled to even. I just get dumped in the middle of that. You know, it's just great, and I just kind of look around, and I'm mesmerized with everything that goes on. I'm thrilled with the idea that in the midst of their fundraising, they fundraise not to pay the lights.
Right.
They fundraise for mission.
Okay.
What a neat idea. That is, and I was sharing just this last week how different that is compared to many other churches.
Okay.
Many other churches fundraise so that they can pay the pastor.
Right.
Not here, and that's wonderful. However, with that said, a few things. Children and youth ministries, absolutely number one. I want Endwell United Methodist Church to be the place that's known for children's and youth ministry, and it can be and should be. We have the resources to do it. We have the facility to do it. I think we have the minds to do it. The second is the understanding of a blended worship service, where anyone, which is very difficult as a pastor, there's those that want tradition, there's those that want contemporary, but there are ways to blend that together so that everybody is fed. And the third thing is entry points. Entry points for any person at any time, at any age station in life, any background that would find a way to be a part of this faith community. And that's, I'm showing a DVD clip this coming Sunday that'll speak to that, but I hope it'll be great.
Okay. Well, we're just about out of time. Thank both of you for coming today, sharing your first month at Endwell and your insight and all the issues that are taking place. I wish you the best in your ministry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're blessed to be here.
Yes, we are.
We're blessed to have you. So
thank you.
So again, this is Encounter, sponsored by Broome County Council of Churches. If you have any program ideas that you'd like to share, you're more than welcome to call the Council of Churches and let them know. Have a great day.